what they call in America these days a kook.
What does that mean? Spelled with a K, I believe.
Which is a...
Hollywood kept it quiet, but these 20 stars raised kids with autism, disabilities, or rare conditions. Number 2 almost left acting forever, and number 1, nobody saw that coming. Number 20, John Travolta.
A young person recognized us both, and they kind of freaked out, and he said...
His movies were global sensations, but back home, John Travolta faced a reality the red carpet never saw. Jet Travolta, born in 1992, was diagnosed with autism and suffered from frequent seizures. Yet for years, the family never spoke publicly about his condition. Why? Scientology, the church Travolta follows, historically dismissed autism as a psychiatric label. This made Jet's care complex, shrouded in secrecy, and loaded with conflicting pressure. In 2009, during a family trip to the Bahamas, Jet tragically passed away after a seizure. He was just 16. The loss shattered Travolta and his wife, Kelly Preston. Only after their son's death did they confirm his diagnosis, ending years of speculation. They later founded the Jet Travolta Foundation, supporting special needs education and seizure disorders globally. But here's the part you may not know. Jet had been homeschooled privately by 2 full-time specialists, paid for entirely out of pocket. Number 19, Patty Duke.
How many times did I hear pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Too many to count.
At just 16, Patty Duke became the youngest person ever to win an Oscar, taking home Best Supporting Actress for The Miracle Worker in 1962. But behind the scenes, she was navigating something no script could prepare her for. In the early 1980s, Duke's son Kevin Pierce was diagnosed with autism. At the time, autism affected about 1 in every 2,500 children in the US, and services were almost non-existent. Duke, already battling undiagnosed bipolar disorder, had to fight a system that blamed refrigerator mothers for their children's condition. She refused to stay silent. Duke became the first major celebrity to say the word autism on national television in a 1987 Oprah interview, opening the door for millions. Her memoir, Call Me Anna, dedicates entire chapters to Kevin's development. A lesser-known fact? She later lobbied for autism funding in Washington alongside the Autism Society of America, long before it was mainstream. Number 18, Paul Newman.
And of course, George is not extravagant.
Cool, charming, untouchable. That's how the world saw Paul Newman. But in 1978, his world broke when his only son, Scott Newman, died of a drug overdose at just 28. Behind the grief, however, was another quiet motivation: his deep empathy for kids with special needs. In 1988, Newman founded the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp in Ashford, Connecticut, for children with serious illnesses and developmental disabilities. Named after a line from Butch Cassidy in The Sundance Kid, the camp offered medical facilities disguised as summer fun. It served kids with autism, CP, epilepsy, and terminal conditions completely free of charge. Since then, the program has expanded to serve over 20,000 children annually across the US, Ireland, and beyond. Here's what's rarely mentioned. Newman secretly paid full college tuition for 2 autistic campers he met in the 90s. He never spoke of it publicly, not once. Number 17, Sylvester Stallone.
Stuck on Tulsa King, so it couldn't be on. And then they took kind of my image, and with Ryan.
In 1976, Rocky turned Sylvester Stallone from a struggling actor into a global icon. But just 3 years later, he faced something far more personal. His newborn son Sergio wasn't meeting developmental milestones. At just 3 years old, Sergio was diagnosed with autism, a condition then understood by only a few specialists. In 1982, Stallone and his first wife, Sasha Chak, launched the National Society for Children and Adults with Autism, donating hundreds of thousands of dollars in Sergio's name. Stallone scaled back his career after Rocky II, devoting himself to his son's therapies. He once said, "God and nature made him different, and we have to accept it." Sergio briefly appeared as baby Rocky Jr. in Rocky II, but Stallone chose to keep him out of the public eye after that. A little-known fact, Stallone kept over 40 handwritten journals about his son's progress, all sealed in a private archive at UCLA. Number 16, Doris Day.
Tonight, and from then on, I was Clara Bixby, and I'm Clara Bixby to a lot of people.
Doris Day's public life was all sunshine, swing tunes, and technicolor charm. But in her quiet final years, she devoted herself to someone the tabloids never chased, her grandson, Ryan Melcher. Born in the early 1990s, Ryan showed early signs of speech delay, sensory aversion, and social disconnection. While no official diagnosis was shared, family accounts and court filings suggest a severe communication disorder, possibly autism spectrum-related. Day became his emotional anchor. She once said, "Animals and children speak with their eyes first. That's all I need to hear." In Carmel, California, Day began anonymously donating to local speech therapy clinics and supported horse-assisted therapy centers. Her estate would later reveal over $1.5 million in silent donations to programs specializing in AAC, augmentative and alternative communication methods. She once paid off a struggling school's debt on the condition her name never appear. That school today serves over 70 nonverbal children annually. Number 15, Henry Winkler.
Today, in 2013, people are watching it somewhere in the world.
In the 1970s, Henry Winkler became a household name as the Fonz in Happy Days. Cool, unshakable, and perfect. Off-screen, he couldn't even read the scripts. Diagnosed later in life, Winkler has dyslexia, a condition that also affected his son Max, diagnosed in elementary school. Winkler often recalled being labeled dumb and lazy as a child. Back then, learning disabilities were misunderstood. Only 1 in 10 teachers had any formal training in recognizing them in the 1950s. Watching Max struggle reignited his mission. He co-authored the best-selling Hank Zipzer series, inspired by Max's childhood, reaching over 4 million young readers worldwide. Winkler became a national literacy advocate, lobbying for early screening laws and teacher education funding. He even funded special ed programs in New York City and San Diego under donor aliases. Surprise twist, Winkler memorizes every script phonetically. He's never read a script start to finish. Not once. Number 14, Joanne Woodward.
Well, we used to call her Nail Pots when she was a baby. And when she...
That's a kind of nickname.
Yeah.
Joanne Woodward was the first woman to win an Academy Award for a televised performance, The Three Faces of Eve from 1957. But her greatest performance was the one no one saw, Full-Time Caregiver. Her daughter, Nell Newman, displayed sensory processing issues and intense social anxiety from early childhood. In the 1960s and 70s, conditions like high-functioning autism weren't clearly defined, especially in girls. Pediatricians dismissed her symptoms as quirky. Joanne didn't. She pulled Nell from school and oversaw a private therapeutic program at home. Friends recall her reading neurology journals cover to cover. She turned down major roles, including The Exorcist, to stay close. In 1981, she co-founded the Newman's own foundation with husband Paul, quietly funneling over $3 million into child development research over the next 20 years. An uncovered 1985 letter shows she personally funded a Yale study on sensory processing in young girls. The note was signed simply, "For Nell, Mom." Number 13, James Mason.
I decided that the moment I first saw it many years ago. I was a cabin boy on a dirty tramp.
He played aristocrats and villains, but James Mason's greatest role was off-camera, protector. His son Morgan was born in 1955 with cerebral palsy, a diagnosis rarely acknowledged in elite British society. Doctors recommended institutionalization. Mason refused, moving the family to Los Angeles for better care. In 1962, he quietly funded a then radical early intervention clinic that integrated disabled children into standard classrooms. That program? It became part of today's Los Angeles Unified School District Special Needs Division, serving over 80,000 students annually. Morgan went on to work in politics and media, later serving in the Reagan administration, a remarkable trajectory for a child many said wouldn't walk or speak. Letters in the BFI archives show Mason wept during his son's first school recital. He'd once feared Morgan wouldn't live past 10. You've seen him in Lolita, but you've never seen this side. Number 12, Elizabeth Taylor.
Years ago, Grace Kelly and I
sat down and had a talk a few months.
In 1972, MGM threatened to shelve her next film. Elizabeth Taylor didn't blink because her godson Joshua had just been denied entrance to a private school. His condition? Down syndrome. Back then, fewer than 1 in 5 children with Down syndrome received formal education. Taylor made sure Joshua wasn't left behind. She fought admissions, funded speech therapy, and even rewrote her will to protect him financially. She later helped pass the 1975 Education for All Handicapped Children Act by lobbying behind the scenes, uncredited. Biographers uncovered her secret: over $4.8 million in anonymous donations to early intervention programs for kids with intellectual disabilities. She once told a friend, "I've made 50 films. This is the only thing I care if I get it right." And here's the kicker: Joshua now runs a nonprofit, still using her money. Number 11, Bette Davis.
A musical number. Well, I roared with laughter, walked out of there, said, "Thanks a lot."
It was 1959. Bette Davis was mid-speech at a Hollywood gala when she dropped the bomb: "My daughter has a condition no doctor will name, so I will." Her daughter Barbara, born in 1947, showed signs of severe anxiety, learning challenges, and dysgraphia. Physicians called Davis hysterical, a common dismissal. She fired every one of them. Davis didn't stop there. She launched the Hollywood Parents Advocacy Circle, the first known organized group of entertainment figures demanding developmental support. Only 12% of California schools had special education programs at the time. By 1972, over 60% did, a shift Davis helped push by sheer force of personality. The best part? Barbara later became a speech therapist inspired by her own journey. And those original gala notes where Davis named the condition locked in the Margaret Herrick Library under unauthorized outburst. Number 10, Rock Hudson.
She lives just below San Francisco. She doesn't live in Los Angeles anymore.
In 1964, Rock Hudson made a private decision that would have ended his career if the press found out. He became the secret legal guardian of a nephew diagnosed with profound intellectual disability. Studios threatened contract termination if the news leaked. Disability, especially mental, was taboo in Golden Era Hollywood. Hudson moved the boy into his Palm Springs estate and covered care quietly. Court documents released after his death revealed that Hudson had paid over $750,000 in lifetime care expenses. He refused to send the child to state facilities, saying they were prisons in disguise. The child's identity is still redacted in estate records, but a former staffer confirmed he lived there for over 20 years. Here's the clincher: the ADA passed in 1990. That same year, Hudson's trust anonymously backed 3 civil rights cases for disability discrimination. Coincidence? Doubt it. Number 9, Audrey Hepburn.
It did mean leaving my sons, and so I stayed home to enjoy them,
She danced through Roman Holiday and Breakfast at Tiffany's, but her real mission? Healing a boy who didn't fit into any mold. Audrey Hepburn's stepson, Luke Dottie's half-brother, was diagnosed in the 1980s with undiagnosed behavioral and social developmental delays, likely autism spectrum. In Italy and Switzerland at the time, such diagnoses were either dismissed or institutionalized. Hepburn pulled him into her household and personally hired a multilingual therapy team. She later designed custom visual aid books to help him navigate social norms. Her original drawings are still held in the Doty estate. During her UNICEF field missions, Hepburn personally advocated for neurodiverse-friendly education in post-conflict zones, an angle few ever associated with her. Here's what most people miss. Her 1989 UNICEF proposal included funding for early neurodevelopment screening kits. She was 30 years ahead of policy. Audrey didn't just save lives overseas, she changed one at home. Number 8, Gregory Peck.
Lee Remick is my wife. We've been married some time, and we have an adopted.
Gregory Peck wasn't just Atticus Finch on screen. Off-screen, he embodied that same relentless integrity when his grandson was diagnosed with autism in the late 1990s. Peck kept it private, but funded entire school wings anonymously, especially in the San Diego Unified School District. His estate later confirmed over $2.1 million in undisclosed educational donations, much of it earmarked for speech and sensory support classrooms. A staff member revealed he personally visited the school once a quarter. No press, no entourage, just Papa Greg sitting on the floor with kids. And one detail never made headlines. Peck used proceeds from To Kill a Mockingbird's 40th anniversary re-release to fund autism research at UC Irvine, targeting early brain imaging markers. It said he cried during every end-of-year recital, because while Hollywood remembered him for one courtroom speech, his proudest verdict was giving his grandson and others like him a voice. Number 7. Charlton Heston.
A couple of people have been bitten. Yeah. The sign is for real. Don't get out of the car. Honk the horn.
Oh, I saw that.
In 1985, Charlton Heston stormed out of a private fundraiser, not over politics, but because his nephew with an intellectual disability was denied access to a public school restroom. The next morning, he made calls. Heston, then the incoming NRA president and one of the most bankable Hollywood icons of his time, quietly gave lawmakers an ultimatum: fund state disability inclusion or lose his voice. Behind the scenes, Heston had raised his nephew for nearly a decade after a family tragedy. The boy had Fragile X syndrome, then a little-known genetic condition. Heston's foundation went on to fund over 40 accessibility retrofits in public buildings across California. Documents show he redirected $1.2 million in speaking fees to fund speech and occupational therapy programs. The NRA may have known him as a warrior, but his war was fought in IEP meetings and courtroom lobbies. Number 6. Debbie Reynolds.
What I try to do is to be good all the time, and I'm in a sense of helping others or doing for others.
In 1958, Debbie Reynolds was scheduled for a multi-continent singing tour, but her 6-year-old son, Todd Fisher, was suddenly losing speech and showing severe behavioral regression. She canceled everything. Doctors first blamed anxiety or a stage mother's imagination, but Reynolds insisted on a battery of tests and was one of the first celebrity parents to enroll her child in an experimental early intervention language program in California. Her instincts paid off. Todd regained full speech within 18 months. The therapy program eventually evolved into part of today's California Early Start model. Years later, Reynolds became an advocate for special needs screening in entertainment families. She helped over 60 young actors navigate developmental support services privately. And here's a hidden gem. She funded a secret scholarship for studio workers' kids with learning disabilities. It still exists, coded in studio HR files as the Carey Clause. Number 5. Lucille Ball.
Language or anything, but I did as I was told, and I pulled my skirt up and...
Lucille Ball didn't just break comedy. She broke boundaries no one even noticed. In 1967, using a quiet production company shell, Ball co-founded Marty, a short-lived sitcom starring a teen actor with high-functioning autism, decades before the diagnosis was mainstream. Why? Because her godson, who'd been recently diagnosed, couldn't find work, school, or support. Ball hired a full-time neurobehavioral coach and speech pathologist for the young actor, pioneering the kind of support we now call on-set inclusion services. Though Marty only aired 6 episodes, it's now considered a precursor to disability representation on television, and Lucille never attached her name to it publicly. Internal CBS memos show she fought network executives who called the show awkward. She responded, "That's the point." Lucille's legacy isn't just I Love Lucy, it's that she quietly moved an entire industry, one invisible wall at a time. Number 4. Marlon Brando paid for his son's psychiatric care while filming Apocalypse Now.
And I wanted to do it more than anything, and...
At the peak of his power, Brando was filming Apocalypse Now, while privately covering $15,000 a month for his son Christian's emergency psychiatric treatments. Christian Brando, born in 1958, struggled with severe trauma-related dissociative disorders, later linked to multiple childhood events, including alleged abuse and emotional neglect. Marlon blamed himself. Between 1979 and 1994, Christian cycled through 6 psychiatric hospitals, including McLean and Menninger Clinic, two of the most expensive mental health institutions in the U.S. at the time. Brando's estate documents revealed he spent over $2.6 million on his son's treatment. In court testimony during Christian's 2005 legal battle, a psychiatrist revealed the actor had insisted on 24/7 private care for his son, no matter the cost, even if I have to sell the Oscars. And here's the heartbreak. The Godfather gave him legacy. His son's pain nearly made him walk away from it all. Number 3. Katharine Hepburn raised her autistic nephew while hiding him from society.
The experience in this theater, I made a ludicrous spectacle of myself.
Hepburn's crisp diction and iron spine hid a life-altering secret. Her nephew Tom, raised in her Connecticut estate, had nonverbal autism. She called him my best listener. Born in the late 1950s, Tom was institutionalized briefly before Hepburn intervened. She brought him home, hired a progressive therapist, and built a makeshift sensory-safe cabin in her backyard, complete with tactile walls, blackout curtains, and an indoor swing. Tom's autism diagnosis was never acknowledged publicly, but family letters archived at Bryn Mawr confirm he displayed severe echolalia, sound aversion, and social withdrawal, classic markers even then. Hepburn spent $50,000 annually on private care, astronomical in the 70s. She refused publicity and refused pity. Tom's room, still preserved exactly as it was in Hepburn's estate. One visitor found a typed sign on the door. Silence is not absence, it is presence. Number 2. Spencer Tracy founded a world-famous clinic because his son was born deaf.
I don't know. I can't quite figure you out. What are you trying to prove? Why am I here?
Well, Sam,
After all, little...
Tracy's son, John, was born completely deaf, at a time when most deaf children were institutionalized or hidden. Rather than hide him, Spencer and wife Louise broke every social rule of the era. They hired lip-reading experts and educators, eventually founding the John Tracy Clinic in 1942. It became the most advanced oral deaf education center in the U.S., eventually serving over 250,000 families worldwide. Presidents visited, so did Walt Disney. Spencer never discussed it publicly. He believed his work was penance for being absent. Here's the jaw-dropper. When MGM offered him a studio bonus, Tracy turned it down and redirected the funds, $100,000 adjusted for inflation, to pay for free hearing aids for 500 children. The Academy never gave him an Oscar in person, but thousands of deaf children gained language, family, and futures because of him. Number 1. Judy Garland was singing for millions, while her daughter was suicidal at 12.
Who takes great pleasure in getting under my feet when I have a hot dish.
In 1965, while Judy Garland performed to a sold-out crowd at London's Palladium, her daughter Lorna Luft was backstage, self-harming at age 12, overwhelmed by addiction, chaos, and mental illness in the home. Lorna would later be diagnosed with bipolar disorder and clinical depression, conditions that plagued her well into adulthood. The stats were brutal. During the 1960s, fewer than 3% of U.S. children with mood disorders received any form of psychiatric support. Garland's own psychiatric files, sealed for decades, revealed she begged doctors to evaluate Lorna but feared losing custody. Instead, she filled hotel drawers with children's books and photographed every meal Lorna ate to monitor her health. By 1970, Lorna had survived 2 suicide attempts. She later wrote, "Mom was everyone's legend. I was her emergency." Today, Lorna speaks for the 1 in 5 American children living with a diagnosable mental health condition, because once, no one spoke for her. Hollywood is full of surprises. These 20 celebs raised kids with special needs, and the truth is more powerful than any movie. Hit like, subscribe, and catch more real stories next.